It being 7:01, I will call the select board meeting for Wednesday, March 5th, 2025 to order. Do we have anyone here for public comment? Okay, no public comment. We have the review of minutes for February 19th.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes from February 19, 2025. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next up, we have Marie Letarte from the library director to talk about the select board representative for the library building.
Yes, I would say I'm giving you an update on the project, but the fact is we're still in the same place we were last month, waiting. Mike Ward said that we got like 24 people, companies interested in being a OPM, owner's project manager, for the project. So we're just going to review those next week when the final date is due. And I am looking for a select board member who would be interested in sitting on the library building project subcommittee, part of the permanent building committee. I'm not expecting an answer today, but think about it and get back to me.
Okay. Sounds good.
That's all.
Yeah.
I just have one question.
Sure.
Has there been any discussion about how this project could impact the tax rate for the town?
So we did have a forum on this last spring, and I believe that Mike Ward is better suited to answer the question, but I believe it has something to do with debt exclusion thing.
Yeah, debt exclusion would be how the project would be funded, but I think they were looking to see if you've done an analysis as to what the projected costs would mean to the taxpayer.
Okay, so we are so early in the process. The only thing I submitted to the state last year, so May, things change, was between 20 and 24 million. With the state to match 40 to 50%, depending.
So 2024 and potential for up to 50% of that 20 to 24
would be matched, yeah.
Is it common or is it possible for the assessor to kind of do a projection based upon the thing, obviously with the new school coming down the pipeline, and then whatever the potential timetable for the library project to kind of get an idea of what a potential tax increase would look like?
Sure. Yeah, they can definitely do an estimate as to what they think would be based on current values, and then see. It would have to kind of get some more information as to how long the library project would be going. We already have the school timeline already, so you'd have to develop what your timeline would be and knowing what would be spent and how much over that period.
Okay, that I can tell you from what the state has told me. And I do want to say that the construction bond is completely state money. It is not federal money. So they've already appropriated it for this project. Not just our library. There's 7 libraries. So they expect a Massachusetts Public Library construction program, so MPLCP, level of design, which I think is slightly more than cartoons and less than a blueprint, in December. And then they would expect an estimate in February. Everything gets approved by March by the Board of Library Commissioners, and then that would go obviously up for a vote next June 26th.
Maybe we can pull what the school used as like a graphic for, like if it costs this much, then, they had, I think, when they were reviewing it and in different forums that I felt was pretty easy to understand. Maybe like mimic
that will come when we hire our OPM.
Yeah.
I think I'm not sure that I'm qualified to do that. I can sort of do like the overview.
Maybe more like
but
future state.
I can't really do the detail, that part. And we certainly will be doing more forums, information forums, feedback forums, whatever. It's not gonna be in a bubble.
Mhm.
Definitely, you'll be so tired of me. Yeah,
Yeah, because once the OPM is hired, their immediate job would be to hire an architect. Then that architect will start doing the outreach and building a program as to what will go into the library. And then they'll do a schematic design. And then if that's approved by the state in December, they'll do cost estimating, as the director indicated, January, February, so that hopefully there'll be plenty of time before town meeting to be able to get this information out to the voters so they know what the impact is.
if you're interested in a library program that we submitted last May that they approved and accepted, we have a copy of it in the library. If you're interested in the documents that we have, they're in the library as much as we could. Some of it is on the town's website as well. So if that's something you're interested
Madam Chairman, just,
Mhm.
Ree, when you say like a cost of 20 to say 24 million, okay? Is that including all of the engineering cost, or is that just the
in. That's
building the structure itself?
it is based on the formula that they gave me. Based on the square footage, probably does not include furniture. It includes the details. I am sorry that I don't have them right in front of me. I can't, because I had this conversation with my consultant recently and she said, oh, this is covered, blah, blah. If you want to know, call me at work and I'll have it in front of me and I'll be able to tell you.
Okay.
But right now, I don't want to just say something.
Okay, so if I stopped in over there, you'd have me, okay, all right, terrific.
Sounds great. Thank you for that update.
All right. Thank you.
It's not, she's not on here. It's not on it. So let us question.
I know.
Try to log in the agenda. Let's see it. The next thing is.
Yeah. It's when we did it.
Maybe there's
Last
something else.
I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, next up is the commercial garage license public hearing for 184 Stone Street. The select board received an application for a commercial garage license from Mathis
Yes.
Philippe de Oliveira Avalar.
Yes.
Apologies if I have mispronounced that. Doing business as HM Garage Auto Repair to operate a vehicle repair business at 184 Stone Street. Are you?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I guess if you could both state your name and address, that would be helpful.
My name is Matthew. I'm buying HM Garage, my friend. Yeah, just small repairs and tires. And my wife helped me in the office. Changing lights, small repairs.
Small repairs.
Yes,
Okay. And you're purchasing this business? That's where the,
yes, I put it in it. Yeah.
since this is a public hearing, we'll offer it up to people who are here in favor or speaking in opposition. So, like I said, this being a public hearing, is anyone here to speak in favor of this license? Okay,
Yeah, so I actually am my own.
sorry, we have microphones up here, but if you could state your name and address, that would be great.
Yes, my name is Cindy Grego. My address is 105B Prescott Street
Okay.
in Lancaster. So I'm all the owner of the
Oh.
business. The business already exists in Clinton.
Mhm.
So we are just transferred from him and every single thing is gonna be the same. Address, number, name, every single thing.
Okay.
Okay,
Great, thank you.
thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll close that portion of the hearing. Is anyone here to speak in opposition of this license? So close the portion of the hearing. Are there any questions or discussion from the board?
Not for me.
No? Okay, what's the pleasure of the board?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the transfer for 184 Stone Street. Mateus Felipe de Oliveira Avalar, doing business as HM Garage Auto Repair.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 5-0.
Good luck.
You're all set. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. You can bring up the old spots.
Let's see what else is. They're here now.
Yeah.
Food and delivery thing. I might do
Yeah. Can I just add it or?
it. No.
So, no.
We can
Okay.
say we're going to sign it, like.
Sorry. You guys are here for the. I'm sorry. You guys are here for the
Letter of support.
endorsement?
Mike was gonna mention it when he does his report.
Oh, okay. I
Okay.
didn't see it
think
here. I was,
We're just like, yeah, that might have been an oversight,
okay.
but when he comes back, we'll.
Let's
ask
make
him.
sure,
So,
so-
want to make sure. Just want to make sure we're doing this,
Oh, we confirmed it today,
that,
that it's under his report. Christina had come to the office.
okay, but we don't have to vote on it, right?
I think she just wanted to speak and add
Okay,
content to what she was asking for.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, so he's
We were
just
just
gonna
like, where-
talk about it under that report unless you're gonna take it.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I
Perfect.
was afraid we didn't see it here and I didn't want to keep you.
Yeah, we didn't want you to go through the whole meeting if we made a mistake, so, okay, all right, back on track, thank
I
you.
know.
No, just didn't. Got a full agenda, so. Okay, livery license public hearing, 157 Green Street. Select Board received an application for livery license from Anton Peterson Alves de Paula, doing business as ADP Transporting LLC to operate a livery tax business from 156 Green Street in Clinton. Okay, does anyone hear about the livery license?
I don't see him here.
Okay. Thank you.
Motion to table.
Yeah, is he expecting us to approve?
Yeah, to confirm, right, we did it. Having the date and time, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I let
I'd be
him know
fine
to
tabling.
confirm.
Yeah. Then, yeah, I think I'd like to.
Sure, so I'll make a motion that we table the license public hearing for 157 Green Street, Anton Peterson Alves, DePaula, doing business as ADP Transporting LLC.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 0. Tabled. Wachusett Cannabis Inc. Host Community Agreement. Shigar Patel from Wachusett Cannabis Inc. would like to discuss entering into a host community agreement for a cannabis product manufacturer operation at 470 Main Street in Clinton. Hi.
Good evening.
I probably did not pronounce your name right, so if you could introduce yourself, that would be great.
Yes, sure. Jigar Patel,
Jigar Patel.
Yes.
Okay. And your address?
number 3 Craig Drive in Clinton, Mass.
Okay. Okay, so you are looking to enter into a host community agreement?
Correct. So, in early January, you saw me regarding the marijuana retailer license. So simultaneously, we want to go for the product manufacturing side of the business, which is existing conditions. And, we're planning on utilizing that part of the facility as well.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
Yeah, I just have one. I'm just curious why you first came in to do selling and the manufacturing was in place already. Is there any reason why you didn't request to do the two at the same time? Had you not intended on doing?
No, we had always intended on doing the product manufacturing side, but then we thought doing the licensing process at the same time would be most beneficial. We planned to do the product manufacturing from the start, but we realized that the timeline is going to stay the same. So rather not extend it to also work with the landlord and utilize the full space, close to the same time. So the plan is that we'll open with retail first, And shortly after, within 6 months, we'll be opening product manufacturing. But licensing, we'd like to continue at the same time. So when we're ready, we can do so in a timely manner.
Okay, what is the pleasure of the board?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the cannabis product manufacturing host community agreement request for 470 Main Street, Wachusett Cannabis Inc. Jigger Patel, owner, and this would be to enter in,
To negotiate,
negotiate the agreement.
right, yeah,
I'll second it.
great, thank you. Any additional questions or discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
4-1, they're all set.
Thank you.
He will, Michael, Joyce, does he need to do anything?
Yeah, so, well, he's already been working with Mr. Gibbons on the retail portion,
Okay.
so we'll just to have a similar template for the product manufacturing as well too. So we'll be in touch.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Very good.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we have the Director of Community Economic Development and Downtown Coordinator would like to discuss municipal vacancy storefront registry and pop-up market initiative update.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, members of the board. Thank you for having us here for you. About 2 weeks ago, we received a request to basically provide some information on two topics that have been discussed by this board in the past. A vacant storefront tax, and also viability of a pop-up retail activity in downtown Clinton. I apologize to you for not getting this to you in your packet prior to this evening. It's a brief summary of correspondence that Lee Abdallah has had with adjacent communities, as well as a summary of best practices, embodying a number of documents that describes at the front page of the memo, some of the justifications or rationalizations for initiating some of these projects. So what are the intended outcomes? What are some of the considerations that have to be worked through before implementing? And then behind that, notes from these conversations and summaries of existing conditions. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lee, kind of walk through beginning about vacant.
Hi, good evening. There's a lot there. Don't try to digest it now, even though it was well summarized. I think the best way to look at this conversation is in two pieces, because there's two memos. Let's take the pop-up market one and put it to the side for a second. And if everybody flips to the last page of the one about the vacancy, the vacant property registration, I think the best way to sort of have the conversation is to first give you an update on the actual status of the commercial spaces in the downtown district. I mean, I think you need to see and have a clear understanding of what the status is before we talk about, well, what do you think is a good idea to do or not do? In front of you is the list of the 17 commercial ground floor commercial properties that are currently unoccupied. These 17 are of the 91 total commercial spaces that make up the downtown, ground level only. And Phil, you mentioned how that number has changed over the years due to consolidation.
Yeah, we used to count a greater number of storefronts. As you know, we've been tracking these tenancies and vacancies since 2015. We've removed a few properties from the list. They've come off because they have been converted into residential uses such as Sevi's. The buildings are demolished. We still had the old hair salon and art supply place next to Aubuchon's on the list. We still have the old, oh gosh, if you're from Clinton, the Casa Mia space on there. So if it was a possibility to be a storefront, we had it on the list. The three storefronts that were adopted video, which have been converted to residential uses, the three spaces that were in Par Breakers that have been converted to residential uses. So that list has been consolidated from what was originally, I think, 123 spaces to 91. Of those 123 spaces back in 2015, when we started tracking, we had about a 34% vacancy rate. The vacancy rate now is about a little over 18%. 18? Yeah.
So that, I think it's important because,
go by certain places, you're driving around, you're busy, you see something, it looks like it's occupied or it looks like it's not occupied. What is the reality of the situation? This page is the reality of the situation. These 17 spaces. I'm not going to take up your time by going down every single one of them, but the long and the short of it is that, you know, a fair amount of my time and of Phil's time is spent trying to form, you know, a rapport and a dialogue with these owners and these, you know, former tenants, prospective tenants, to understand why these spaces are in the condition that they're in, you know, vacant and whatnot. So, and this is everybody on here. This is from, you know, the Strands and the old timers and the, you know, the big dogs, if you will, to the very small spaces. If you just quickly look down this list, there's a lot of action, if you will. There's almost nothing on here that someone was not interested in, that they have not been approached by potential tenants. It's a matter of what those property owners do with that interest. Okay. I'm happy to answer specific questions about any of these. If not, this is just here for you. And I think this is something that we should, you know, probably periodically going forward, keep giving you an updated list on so that you understand and have current information on how it's going. Yeah.
So, couple of pieces to this. I think the overview I would like to see beyond downtown district, right? Because to your point, when you look at the Casa Mia, a little further down the street, you have Scoobies. You know, when you're in Shaw's parking lot, there's one unit that's been vacant well over a decade. And I think that we have to be cognizant of the neighbors there, right? So we've already had the residents of Scoobies in here a couple of times. It's dilapidated, it's an eyesore, and something needs to happen. Either, you know, they got to address it, because I think even just this past fall, we were kind of running into the same thing where it's overgrown. There could be potential for a fire hazard. Something has to be done. And it seems, you know, that implementing some sort of financial penalty, people will answer the phone. Like right now, I mean, this past year, they couldn't get a hold of anybody to even address that property. So I think with potential for a financial penalty, people may be more likely to answer the phone and engage in that dialogue. But I think I would, you know, there's not many, right? There's not a lot, but the ones that are there, you know, something's got to happen to it, right?
You bring up a good point, Matt, and Lee's conversations with the committees confirm this. And I just want to reference this document that was prepared for the city of Cambridge, which is Lee and I are just marveling over. It's such a concise best practices analysis by consultants.
We have that.
Paper?
Can you share that?
Oh, absolutely. We'll share it.
Yeah.
But in Lee's conversation and in this documentation, one of the chief reasons that communities adopted a vacant property registry was to basically establish a line of communication with the property owner. In the downtown, we really don't have that problem. I mean, Lee and I have talked about it. The person who owns the small building that used to be Schombeck and Vostok is really the only phone number that we don't have in the downtown.
You're going to have to talk in non-Clifton terms, which building is that?
Yeah.
That one.
The bar street.
The one with the bar studio. Yes. Yes. We're a little challenged with that, but we now have a number for at least the leasing agents. So
Yeah.
we're getting there.
And another reason that communities often adopt it is to basically be able to have a lever to enforce, not vacancy necessarily, but violations of the building code, the sanitary code. And you've identified probably the most glaring property in town. Off the top of my head, maybe the only, maybe a unique property in town that's where both of those conditions are manifest, neither communication with the owner and a property that's in derelict condition. So yeah, to be honest, our focus was on the downtown area. That's been our focus for a long time. But relative to addressing that property, if not this, then this as a last resort may be something to consider.
Chair.
Mhm.
Yeah, and actually it's touched on in the cover page because typical requirements of vacant property registration ordinance, the second bullet is robust interdepartmental collaboration, typically involving inspectional services and board of health. So yeah, this kind of, Matt and I share the same frustration with that property. It's a disgrace, and it has been for a long time. But it's not under one, it falls in a lot of buckets. And so I think people are just too comfortable passing it along. And we just have to figure out, I mean, John Hogan, we used to be our moderator, and he's, I think we know how to find him in Florida. But it just, I don't know. It's frustrating to me because we keep passing it along and we keep saying, we're going to try and find this, and the building inspector is going to try and find it, and no one's to blame, but I'm skeptic. I don't know. I wish I was more optimistic about robust interdepartmental collaboration.
Yeah, I mean, it would be like a triangle of effort, I think, between the offices.
It is, and that's
Yeah.
one of the, sorry.
No, no.
In speaking with some of these different cities and towns that have enacted this and others that have tossed it around, looked at it and didn't enact it, there were, that was one of the main there's a couple of main concerns. It is an imperfect tool, but it is one of the few tools. And cities across the country are looking for the solution to this problem, right? But that interdepartment communication, and also if you say you're going to do it, you got to follow through with it. There's no hall passes, there's that sort of thing. Multiple towns or cities did cite that as a challenge.
Yeah, I'm not sure the communication is a problem. I think the prioritization is a problem, where I think if you find a soft spot in our inspectional services or enforcement, then somehow you skate by. And this property is a classic example of that, because this board has called for some kind of fix for years.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like there's a kind of
At this point, get the DPW over there and just tear it down, like just raise it.
Yeah.
So, all right, so when you look at Fitchburg, Lowell, Arlington, far greater coverage is needed for those places versus Clinton. I don't know that I would be tolerable or accepting of the challenge is going to be interdepartment communication. That's something that, if we bring these people into the room together, they develop what they think is going to be the most executable and most efficient process. That should not be a hurdle for this. And I think that in addition to the commercial industrial, I also think there needs to be something for residential, because I know that there's somebody who has a neighbor. The house has been vacant for several years, and now they're starting to find evidence of rodent droppings. They have a small family. So I'm not saying that we need to start going out handing out fines to everybody, but it's something that in the back pocket that we can pull. But something needs to happen, because there's a lot of people that are investing a lot of money into this town, and residents included. I don't think that they should have to look at these properties that are an absolute disaster.
In the majority of communities where such an ordinance has been enacted nationwide, it is begun as a residential vacancy program, and only gradually expanded into commercial properties, and mostly coming out of the bust of 2008, the Great Recession, where you had all these vacant properties. If that's the case, to speak to a property like the old Subway, not Subway.
Domino's.
Scoobies, yes. It was Mario. What was the sub?
Burger King.
Just like a Burger
Somebody's
King.
a big fan.
It's the subplace.
Devastated. Devastated.
It was the subplace. Anyway, because we've had this discussion with the developed property owner before, was working with inspection service where they have a space that's substandard for them, but it's not necessary. By being substandard, it's not necessarily a violation of the building code or the health code. So a building like the old Scoobies, it probably, because they're not serving food, it may not fall under health department jurisdiction. If it doesn't have open trash, it's probably not falling under sanitary code. If it's, it may not fall under violation of the building code, but vacancy is a much lower threshold. So, to where you can exercise stick. Government can only exercise its authority where it's enabled to by law. And if it's not against the laws that these boards enforce, then they really don't have any authority to compel action.
So based on what I had looked up, for commercial properties, if it hit a certain number, right? So if the property would have to be at least 6 units, and they would have to have X number of units vacant over X amount of period of time. So ultimately, when you hear about what rental rates are right now downtown, and you have empty storefronts, I just think the town needs to have that dialogue, because there's almost $4 million that's been invested down there. And if the dialogue can't be active, then we have to have some sort of leverage. I mean, when you look at a few years ago when the board enacted if there were back taxes owed, that permits couldn't be issued, checks came rolling in. So I think that to do something similar to that, along those lines would be helpful. But then there was another piece of it too, where if there's a current building permit or a demo permit, then those businesses wouldn't be effective.
Correct.
Right.
A lot of those cities have those caveats
Yeah.
of if you have active construction, you have an active plan, you're actively marketing it, you're taking these, there's financial hardship, say it's an elderly person who's physically and
100%.
financially unable. There's different outs to it, in discretion. But I do see the point of, you're looking for leverage.
Yeah.
And one thing, just to interject, that every single person that we spoke to about this, and every single Zoom I sat on, an article I read, whatever, all included that one of the biggest and most effective tools is actually not from the municipal side of things. It's from the community side of things. It's the community calling out the owners of these properties to say, it's not acceptable. It's not acceptable. And that peer pressure, if you will, is what I've heard repeatedly, is that's what ends up moving the needle. Yes, should it be, supported by the, whatever municipal levers that can be pulled? Yes, but that's, just wanted to mention it's a very big part of it. And
Just one more thing, and then I'll stop for the night. So there's a property that's within the vicinity of the town hall that has been vacant for quite some time, and there was a potential business owner that had reached out about how the owner wanted the potential tenant to fund the code, to bring it in accordance with code. That property is still vacant. So, I know that in talking with Mr. Devault about this before, like that's kind of the idea of like, if businesses are putting this on the potential renters, then, you just can't sit there until you finally get somebody who says, yeah, I'll pay for all of this. But this is something that I feel is necessary, and quite honestly, it would be something that I'd like to put on for a vote on the town hall floor in June. I don't think we should have to wait any longer. I don't think that neighbors should have to wait any longer.
On the residential side, I agree with you. I'm just speak to some concerns on the commercial side. This comes out of this guidance as well. Is one of the recommendations to have your zoning in place before you do this. Two outcomes that have come from communities buying this. Somebody renting out a storefront for storage, not a prohibited use in the district, rent it out for a couple $100 to your cousin. So you haven't really accomplished anything. The other is potential of protected uses such as storefront churches. If it's pay a fine or rent it to protected use where I don't have to go through zoning, that's another potential outcome. So one of the recommendations, if you move forward in this, have it thought out. Just as you mentioned, what is a vacancy? We have storefronts downtown that are, we had two, we now have one that's leased but vacant. It's been leased by the same business for probably close to 10 years, maybe longer than 10 years, but they're just using it for storage. But what is a vacancy? In terms of time, in terms of occupancy, these kinds of things. And really, what are your goals? In many towns, in many larger cities, the goal is to basically address violations of the code, hazards to public safety, make sure that that's your goal. I honestly don't think, with the exception of Scooby's building, there aren't too many instances around town where I'd say that it would be our primary motive. But if you wanted to develop this, particularly with including residential properties, I think the Board of Health and the building inspector would have to be in on that, kind of the formulation of that program.
Madam Chairman,
Yeah.
the thing that I kind of get frustrated by is I go to Hudson and our population has grown tremendously. And I look and the thing I hear from everyone is we have no restaurants in Clinton. I mean, what do we have for restaurants? I mean, we have some Brazilians, small Brazilians. I'm just talking about the type of place like an Old Timers, or I know there are a lot of like small pocket places, the Thai and stuff like that. But I'm talking about the Clinton Bar and Grill, or like in the old days, the Old Timers and stuff like that. We're lacking that. And so I just, when you go to Hudson, every time I go there, there's another opening soon. And I just don't know what their plan was that they've been so successful at. It just doesn't seem to me that we're at that crossroads where we're enticing people to want to open businesses. Because I know the Fix in Leominster closed. Boom, there's somebody else in there already.
I mean, I've looked into some of this too, and the foot traffic and the businesses in there kind of attract other businesses. But if you do have kind of that like people, long-term leases that are just stagnant and they don't have like maybe like a cute retail place or even something that would just bring in I have looked into Hudson. I'm sure you've exhaustively looked into it. It was like a 15-year kind of like reboot, but like to your point, like how do we move like some of the stuff the stuff that's in play?
Well, because Hudson isn't just the high street, main street. I mean, restaurants are popping up all over.
Yeah. And I think too, it's like, I mean, and I agree, like, because I mean, it's hard not to go there and feel the energy there and see how, like you said, somewhere, if you've got a great location and you've got all that activity, then restaurants want to be in that area, like Leominster. And how do we, I don't know, I'm sure there's no like one thing to do, but I don't know, is public shaming seems to be kind of the part of the equation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, respectfully, I think we have a good number of restaurants. They don't all need to be fine dining. I think that it speaks to the health of this downtown. And yes, there's always room for improvement, but the health of this downtown, that it supports that many small eateries. And we have foot traffic day and night. We have people who come and they get lunch and they're walking around. And if those businesses can sustain themselves in a healthy manner, to me, I think that's a reflection of a functioning downtown. Is it a tourist destination? No, but it's the downtown of the circumference of these other communities that are more rural. And people coming, getting a haircut and getting a sandwich and running an errand. And I think that there's a certain positivity to that. It supports the people who live here.
100%. I agree. And it doesn't mean that there's
room
not
for
enough-
there's room for
Right.
like how to do it. Would we like to see businesses that aren't taking up spaces that are open 2 days a week and they're open 5 days a week? Of course, yes, and there's improvement, but
I mean, ultimately, like I know that there were ideas that people had been talked out of because of whether it's the demographic of the town or whatever the case is. And I, you know, our responsibility as a town hall is to give you the support to help that dream come true, not to be a gatekeeper. And,
And I do think that our downtown, like, if it is flourishing for our community, first and foremost, like the quality of life here, if our, you know, and then that momentum for, you know, that it suits us will, I think,
You build from
permeate
it.
and,
Yes.
yeah.
We'd like to
Build.
grow.
I think it's just, you know, it's like, it is kind of our like, I guess, front door on some level, you know, like, and people are driving by, and I think this board gets a lot of questions of like the excitement of it, of being like, what's going on with this space, what's going on with that space, and like just trying, I think, to learn like what we can do from, and maybe that's limited, maybe it's this, you know, vacancy tax, but like, what can we do to, you know, we've invested in the infrastructure, tried to make it a beautiful place for that foot traffic, like what's kind of the, what, you know, what can the community do? Like what is,
Right.
that's
It-
part of it. a
It
big
really
part.
is the community. I remember years ago, you know, trying to attract a brewery to Clinton. And after many false starts, I said, we'll have a brewery when somebody from Clinton decides they want to open a brewery. And they ended up coming up from Sterling. But that's basically it. Businesses that are going to establish themselves like the Fountain in our downtown and thrive are going to be homegrown. If there's things we can do to support our downtown, it would be to support our community and maybe try to identify those proto-entrepreneurs in our community and support them, and by making a personal connection, maybe connect them with the resources they need. And it will be to help our existing businesses grow. Our businesses that are open 2 days, try to find a way to help them be open 4 days. Our small restaurants, you know, that are looking to, these are family-owned businesses, you know. I've been working with businesses for 13 years now, and on the planning board for 10 years prior to that. There's a natural aversion to risk from a lot of these small businesses because so much relies on the business. But like the device we have now of trying to enable them to take a kind of proof of concept or baby step, enter into incremental growth at low risk. Things like these liquor licenses we just received, I think, are a great opportunity to leverage some of that. I think that will be the growth that I think that's probably our most judicious path, and the one that'll support our community most in the end, which is what it's all about. We of course want to grow our market. We of course want to bring people to Clinton. We are all proud when somebody who's never even heard of Clinton comes to town and like tells us how great, how amazing they find it is. And that happens all the time, but it's really supporting that local economy, bringing those people in to enrich their opportunity, and maybe to invite other people into our community is kind of what our economic development goal is.
the question that I feel the most over the last probably 6 to 8 months is, when is Wendy's opening? Right?
There's that too.
That's what I always, anywhere I go.
Yeah, but you're in a junior,
Where's that start?
you're in a junior high school stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
We
you
know
do
your
work
audience,
kids.
they're looking for burgers. No,
Listen,
Exactly.
this is.
Yeah.
No.
But I do think, I think it comes out of like a genuine, like just desire to, or maybe it's nostalgia to kind of see these businesses either reinvented, reopened. You know, mine is probably the old timer and the Strand. Those are probably like the hottest ones.
If you get asked about Wendy's, then we get asked three
Yeah, I
times as much about them.
once about Wendy's.
But yeah, I mean, and a lot of, as you guys know, a lot of these, you know, there's active communication about them. There's active potential.
Yeah, we're making touches on
Yeah.
a bi-weekly basis.
And that's, you know, the upside of being so geographically dense and having two of us that we can check in on these people all the time. And that makes the difference. And even just exemplifying, like on Facebook a month ago or whatever, I got contacted. I've been asking about a space I'd been sitting there forever. And finally was told, okay, we're ready. We're going to lease it. I said, can I relay this? And if anyone saw Facebook, I think we all know what happened. So there's a tremendous amount of potential and interest in this downtown. It's a matter of us doing the best we can to make those connections, foster those deals to get them across the finish line, and to also change the perception with some folks who view Clinton through an old lens and don't understand and realize the potential and the current momentum that we have to get on board and to be part of it, that it only benefits them too. So
For what it's worth, I've lived here for 25 years and the perception of this community has changed dramatically. And I think that's in part because of more new people have moved in. More people who have connections to the world outside Clinton are acquainted with Clinton now, have experience with it, understand that it's a good place.
Madam Chair. First of all, thank you guys for putting all this stuff together and meeting with us. I think what I don't want to lose sight of though is, nobody wants to just beat up a property owner because their building is vacant. There's a lot of reasons that could go into something being vacant. Do you think we would have the ability as a town to make the distinction between commercial properties that are rentable and are actively trying to find a business partner, things just haven't worked out, and property owners that are unrentable, not up to code? People have looked into starting businesses there. To Selectman Kobus's point, I know this is anecdotal, but I just have heard from multiple accounts of people trying to start businesses in town that the onus or the pressure to bring the space up to code to run a business is being like put on the potential renter. And I think those are the commercial property and commercial property owners that I think we should kind of focus on and isolate from everyone else. The rest of the property owners that the stuff is rentable and the people are talking to us and they're trying to do what they can, nobody wants to beat those guys up. We want to help those people. They're trying to do the right thing. But, carrot and the stick, right? So the carrot for the property owners that have their buildings up to code and in shape and ready for businesses to come in. And if there's refusal to cooperate with us, then I think we need a stick to be able to kind of motivate those property owners. And I'm assuming that if we did go forward with some version of a vacancy tax, that I'm assuming that the town has some kind of discretion into like when to apply it. And when, like, for example, it doesn't just your property's vacant for 2 years, automatically you're in this vacancy tax, right? I mean, it sounds like, talking the way you guys are describing it, like, we have some discretion.
Yes.
We can provide, as long as we think that there's an earnest effort going on there, like, we can work with these people and not necessarily have to do this. But I think it's a bullet in the chamber that I hope we don't have to use, but I think it would be in your department's best interest if you had that option available to you when you're speaking to some of these property owners.
I'm going to ask Lee to speak to some of the conversations she had with other communities about enforcement. And my understanding is that their enforcement has evolved over time. But just to make one quick clarification, we speak about it as a tax, but it's not a tax, it's a registration fee. Just so, it has no basis in Mass General Law as a tax. So it's kind of like registering your dog, or if you had the reverse of registering your dog. If you have something, you have to register it. If you don't register it, you face a penalty. If you do register it, you face a different penalty. But I'll let you speak to kind of.
The biggest penalty of all is me stalking them, and being a nag for them to talk to me. And I'm very good at it. Yes. So in speaking with the other towns, that was one of the main outcomes from establishing this registration, was that it forced those problem property owners, if you will, neglectful ones, that it's a stick. It's a stick to start a conversation. The conversation to say, what is the holdup? What is the problem? What can we do? And still have this sort of looming in the background. And they all said, it's an imperfect tool. It takes a lot of discretion. It takes a lot of maintenance. It takes a lot of coordination on the municipal side. It's a last resort. It is a push come to shove. This is the push. But again, they said a lot of times it's a response to a community-based swell of, we've had enough of this. This is, it's hurting our property values. It's choking out in, economic development in the community. It's, my sister-in-law has tried to rent that thing 3 times and she had a business plan and a loan and blah, blah, blah. What is, that kind of thing. So it's, I mean, we looked into it. If you guys want to explore it more, it definitely needs more, more fleshing out and exploring. I will just circle back on one thing about something they all very specifically said was that it would have to be written into the town bylaws, I believe, whatever, about that storage is not an allowable use of a first floor commercial space, period, full stop, whatnot, because that is going to be the first out. It's going to be the easy
Loophole.
so you have to cut that off immediately from the get-go.
One last thing, Madam Chair. So you had mentioned that some of the towns that you talked to said that the biggest or the most successful tool was community pressure.
Shame is where
not
Shame.
shame was the
Good old shame. Good old
It's-
fashioned shame.
So can you, not to put you on the spot, but do you have I'm trying, what would be an example? Like, how would that, we talking about people with A-frame signs outside front of the building?
Yeah,
ringing
I mean,
bells, or what?
yes,
what are we talking
but in today's day and age of, online comments and community boards and forums,
Right.
that, and it's also, I mean, in a community as small as this, it's going to the grocery store and running into the person and being like, so what you doing there? Wouldn't it be great?
Yeah.
So that's,
But the problems we have aren't with people who are at the grocery store.
Yeah, that's
And we've got absentee people who
Yeah.
we can't track
don't-
down.
yeah. And we've tried and continue to try the idea of presenting them with good options. Here's a potential tenant. They're going to give you X times more, than what you used to charge for the place, but you've got to bring it up. You got to clean it up, whatever. And like you mentioned, they're looking for tenants to foot the bill to improve a property that these tenants don't own. And we get a lot of that impasse.
So that's kind of a big,
That's where the gap.
so the money that the landlords don't have to update the space doesn't make it attractive for retailers. Or it's not like a turnkey situation.
Right.
And then it's obviously someone who's either moving or starting a business might lack the capital to
Right.
rehab a building they don't own.
Right.
Fit out costs vary from business to business. I mean, obviously a restaurant, you're starting in the 6 digits. Whereas if you just need some outlets and lighting installed and a door fixed to open a retail shop, you're in the few thousands potentially. It's really kind of where that line is. I think it is, I think in many instances, the common practice in Clinton to put those costs on the business owner. We spoke with the owner of a business recently that opened on High Street. They said I think they were $250,000 into it.
Can I just stop you right there for a second?
Sure.
So why is it just, because I do hear this a lot, why is it just accepted that that's just the culture in this town and that it's almost like there's nothing we can do about it?
Oh,
I don't have an answer.
Oh.
Do you have an answer?
I don't have an answer, but I do know that I think that something that we feel is an opportunity is that the more we discuss this and the more public it is, and the more we see businesses open and succeed, we get new blood into town. And that new blood is going to start buying buildings. And at some point, the opportunity to sell is going to tip the scale. It's coming. It does have momentum. It doesn't happen overnight. But to me, if you have a long-term property owner who is clearly absentee, neglectful, just is looking for the easy whatever, at some point as these improvements happen, aesthetically and business-wise, people are starting to knock on doors. We have people making offers on buildings. We've had it been going on for the last 2 years. Do they always happen? No, but the conversation, you have to keep showing them up. You have to keep making those introductions, saying, oh, you know what you could do? You could go ask them. Everybody likes to be asked to dance. Everybody likes to be asked to sell. So we just have to keep applying pressure from as many directions as we can.
Mary can speak to this much more than I can, but over the past 8 years, this board's changed a lot, and we have been steadfast on this one thing that, we are committed to making this downtown as good as it can be for the people here and for anybody else who wants to join us. So I'd like to think that no matter what the makeup of these 5 seats are, that we're going to continue that support of what you guys are doing.
And I don't know if we want to leave and go to pop-up, but if there's going to be a follow-up in discussions of vacancy, I don't know if a member of the selectmen a member of the board wants to spear, drive point or participate in a conversation. But I think the idea of at least considering residential vacancy as part of a program, I think is probably a more impactful use of the program than limiting to residential uses.
Sure.
And invite multiple boards to
Not to
participate.
drag this out, and I don't want to speak for the Board of Health, but I seem to recall conversations I've had with them for past years that they were in some kind of Montechusett consortium looking into blighted properties. And again, that's a very slow grind too, but I think there's just some unsexy stuff going on behind the scenes there. I don't know if that's still continuing.
We should have that conversation.
Yeah.
We were in the liabilities assets program from New
Maybe that's what it
Communities.
is.
We ended up not doing any properties in Clinton because, quite frankly, it relied on a list of vacant properties. Properties under the state program guidelines had to be, I think, 24 months vacant. This started, I think, in 2013. We were still coming out of the recession.
This is more like, I want to say like pandemic time. I talked to Steve Lipka a lot more back then. And
Well, there's 2 programs. The state receivership program,
right.
which takes a lot, which has gestation period, multiple court appearances.
Right.
That's a program that takes multiple years, but is very effective at addressing these properties.
And that's the program the Board of Health was using.
Okay,
And
that's
they had some good success on some residential properties
Right.
that were having problems with. Yes.
And then we had the liabilities asset program, which was limited to properties, not that were necessarily in violation of the health code, but they were more than 24 months vacant. And we were in a consortium of communities, Athol, Fitchburg,
That's what I'm
Mr. Gardner.
Yep.
We did not do any projects in Clinton because developers were buying them up too fast.
Okay.
I'd be interested in serving on the committee
Okay.
or whatever capacity.
With the board's permission, Matt and I will follow up next week and start to look at that.
That's great with me.
Yeah. Sounds good. I will say like this is the kind of periodic update of like these,
The tote board?
yeah, is helpful. Like I said, we all kind of get like, not to say we have to let people know the specifics of it or, but,
Well, like I said, I mean, we've been maintaining that. This is our 11th year of that spreadsheet. So it's
Out of sight is
really
out of
good
mind. And
Yeah.
I think people just think, oh, well, nothing's happening because
Yeah.
they don't understand what happens every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, not just as a final reflection on that, the 8 of those storefronts are 3 owners.
yeah,
I
Yes.
never really thought about. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm just happy we're going to have some in-town Wendy's trash on the side of the road instead of the imported Wendy's trash that I see all the times. Bringing it back home.
So yeah.
Okay.
And if you guys have individual questions about any of these, just holler.
yeah, absolutely.
Holler at us.
Okay, and then a discussion of pop-up retail. Again, this is just quickly a summary of some of the modes of pop-up, some of the factors that we need to consider with the usually intended benefits, and then notes from Lee that are garnered from her conversations with multiple communities, which are listed at the bottom of the 3rd page. So I don't know if you want to start with.
You know me, I'm pretty blunt, so I can sum it up pretty tightly. Pop-up markets are typically done for 2 reasons. They're done to attract people to an area that doesn't get a lot of traffic, foot traffic, patronizing. And it's also used to seek out entrepreneurs to create a pipeline for small businesses who want to test a concept, dip their toe into it with the end goal of having them take permanent space in the town. Kind of going back to the conversation we just had, we don't have either of those problems. We have businesses that when they're open, they are busy, they are patronized. it is an active, busy downtown. So we don't have a problem about getting people down here. It's not a ghost town. And I can't tell you how many times we have talked to other towns or had businesses come up to look at Clinton, and they are wowed is not a corny overstatement. They're literally wowed at how much foot traffic we have. On a Tuesday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, there are people walking around. There is zigzagging. There are people running errands. A lot of towns would kill for that. So that's issue number one. And issue number two, as far as creating a pipeline, we have a pipeline. We get approached every week, every other week from somebody thinking about opening a business in this town. Again, going back to that Facebook post, 200 comments, and so many people reached out to the property owner that they reached out to me less than 24 hours later and told me to take the post down because they were drowning in leads, quality leads. So we don't have a problem attracting businesses. We don't have a problem attracting people. That's what pop-up markets do. Problem? We have nowhere to put a good businesses, as we just discussed. So that's kind of what pop-ups do. So it's addressing a problem that we don't really. Let's hear it.
Madam Chair.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Hey, this is America. Everyone can have different opinions.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not totally sold with your impression of the foot traffic of downtown. It's definitely not a ghost town, but I don't think I go to Chiconi's, I go to Clinton's from time to time. I feel like I spend some time down there. You might see some people walking around, but I've never been like, wow, look at all this foot traffic. And I think that an activity like this, it does, if I don't know if everyone here remembers, but when they used to do this down at the Matchstick Market down at Depot Square, there was a lot of people down there, and a lot of people not from Clinton down there, kind of experimenting, looking at different booths and stuff like that. And I think if I was a business owner on High Street or someplace else in town that had a business, and there was this kind of activity that was once a week or something like that, I would be thrilled, because I think a lot of the people that go to that activity would then go to Clinton's or go to Zaytoon's. I think that foot traffic would generate like more business. So I don't, and what we've been talking about right now are all these vacant lots, and not all of these are vacant due to like the property is not being in good condition. Some of these are vacant for other reasons that people are trying. So I respect where you're coming from and your opinion on this matter, but I don't really sign on to. I totally agree with you that the 2 points that you just said, the purpose of the pop-up market, 100%. I agree that's the reasons. Those are the reasons that I'm kind of interested in it, and just trying to gauge the temperature of the select board as to if this is an initiative that they think is worth considering and investing in. Because if you guys come back to us and you say, hey, this is a great idea, but like, we're not staffed to do this. Like, this is going to be.
That's point number 2.
Right?
Over to Phil.
So, but before you go, Phil, but then that's fine. And then you let us know that. And then as a board, and then we can have discussions about do we want to have some sort of additional staff to help with this if we think there's a significant return on the investment.
I just want to say, just a couple of things. Relative to foot traffic, I was actually thinking about foot traffic, and I agree. You take the Matchstick Market as an example. There are events that would bring people into town. And one of the types of pop-up that I mentioned here, I mentioned really 4 kinds, is kind of the festival pop-up. I put Old Home Day in that same category. I put the Sidewalk Sales Day in the same category. Remember in 2021, we had a winter market that was intended to be down at the fire station. It had to move up because of enforcement officers' concerns to Chicone at the last minute. These kinds of events can bring people to town. But place-based pop-up, one of the frustrating things about pop-up, though, in terms of understanding how well it achieves its objectives, is why you can go online and find 50 sites that'll tell you how great pop-ups are. You have to, it isn't until you've clicked on a dozen dead links to pop-up sites to realize that it's very difficult to understand the long-term viability of the strategy, and especially whether it's successful in achieving that second goal, which is serving as a kind of feeder system to storefronts. We had a conversation, I think, with Ashland.
Yes.
And
So Ashland has a very opposite downtown than we have. It does not have density. It does not have many businesses in it. It had no foot traffic. And the town, the Community and Economic Development Office in Ashland was looking for a way to literally just get people to come into downtown Ashland, just to patronize it, just to create a sense of community and togetherness. They literally had to hire an entire person, and that's all they do. In addition to the fact that the director, because it's a 2-person department, she said she spent probably almost half of her time on the logistics and the organizing of it and whatnot. And while, yes, in the moment it feels fun, it's great, you've got people of different generations hopefully together, it takes so much work to get to that point. And then the people that are the businesses of the pop-up, if you will, a lot of times these people it's their side hustle, it's their off-hour thing. It's not something that they really have an intention or interest into then taking it beyond that. And that's what Ashland has found, that it's a very big jump to go from, hey, do you want to come and set up a booth on a Saturday? And we provide you the DJ, and we provide you this, and we hope it doesn't rain, and we do all the marketing, and we do all of this, to then get it. That person all of a sudden is like, yes, I do want to do this for a living, and I want to, take on a storefront and whatnot. That's a very big translation. So, yeah, go ahead.
So I mean this with, I'm not being malicious by any, this is not anything with malice at all. Like, and I feel like the last couple of things we've talked about, it's like you're talking us out of doing this, right? Which is fine,
No,
because you're the professionals and you have this perspective that I don't have with how much time you've put into it and all the, the circumstances where this has happened. And the way I look at it is like, we have very talented people. We have a great resource with the Clinton Chamber of Commerce that, like, I don't think, in looking at the matchstick market, it seemed to be very, I don't know how much organizing went into that. It didn't seem to be really like, it wasn't
us though.
no,
Huh?
No,
Well,
it wasn't us.
No,
No,
exactly. It's like-
that's what I'm saying.
yeah, they were weird. They were weird.
It wasn't it wasn't a festival. Like, it was just kind of like a farmer's market aspect where, like, hey, farmer's market, come up, sell, you bring foot traffic in there. Does it turn into a storefront? Probably not, maybe not, possibly, maybe, right? But it does bring that foot traffic where maybe, there's a little bit of a market here. Let's go down High Street. Like, just, it doesn't have to be the big E, right? It's just something like, and we can kind of like weed through this whole thing, and maybe in the end, it's like, yeah, it's not worth the town's resources. But I don't think that it's necessarily should be the town's undertaking. Like, I think kind of working with that partnership piece of it.
And really, I'm going to speak very frankly. There's different models that have outlined. The one I think that is the sexiest was tried by Pittsfield. I think it was actually in the late aughts or early teens, where they actually worked out short-term leases. Pittsfield, is a former GE city, had dozens of vacant storefronts. They worked out short-term leases with property owners and businesses. And I think the city provided a subsidy for the first 4 months of rent or something like that, or something like this. It sounded like a great proof of concept idea, but it doesn't exist anymore. And this is kind of, I have been able to track down links to understand what the fate of the program was. But absent that, the Worcester food market model, the Ashland model, we'd have to follow, and the Worcester food market opened and closed in under a year. I don't know if it fed restaurants into the Worcester scene. We'd have to check with the people there.
No,
That model, it is a little tougher. The place-based storefront model. This is something we tried in 2015 with Nicole Malone. We looked seriously at the space that's now the Pregnancy Counseling Center and the space that was formerly the spillway. In both instances, the hard stop was the conversation with the building inspector saying, yeah, it's a nice idea, but this. So if you remember, they ended up over at 55 Sterling Street. And even then they had their own issues with the enforcement agency there. The idea of having it attached to an event would pop up. See, I'm not a shopper myself. But pop-up is, I mean,
You're a director of economic development.
no, but I'm not a shopper, but I understand that shopping is,
Shop?
I understand that shopping is an activity. And like at Old Home Day, or when you go to an event and there's like, you can spend some time there. Those are the opportunities I think be most successful. Because if we're trying to bring people to town, then I think just I don't know if just the opportunity shop, it would have to be very curated and very excellent. And quite frankly, the capacity to do that, to have that market insight is beyond the capacity of any bureaucrats. If we can identify that dancing partner and work with them, yes. But we couldn't successfully do that. But if we have other events going on and there's the opportunity to maybe have a little cycle, like the library, the Friends of the Bigelow Free Public Library used to have their staff during Old Home Day. If it's, without stepping on anybody's toes, if it's Ghost and Goblin, or I don't know what other events might be.
Yeah. I mean, the concert series in the summer or something, but I don't disagree with, not to interrupt you with that. I don't disagree with what you, like, is the effort and the return on investment something that we A need or B want to do? I would even
administrative
say was the
cost
matchstick market, which I think was it successful? Was it? I mean, I went once and I was like, this is gonna sound so freaking rude, but like, I don't need that much soap. Like,
Yeah.
it was like the
No.
same vendor, like, I just don't.
No, but I
So
think
there
we're all
wasn't.
happy to go down and support it. We're all kind of,
Yeah.
we're all kind of happy that people were figuring out a new way.
Right, like it was like more of a community versus like an economic spur. Because I do think it feels good to like see people and connect. But if I think, and I'm happy to reach out to Nicole, but like how much time and effort was put into it, it was a passion project of
Yeah.
hers. It
And
was
she-
absolutely.
And she had those built-in connections. She was on staff with VegFest, remember? So a lot
Yeah.
of these farmer people were people that she already had those connections with.
Yeah.
But I think, Julie, I think you're kind of making, being Matt's point though, is like, it was just a passion project.
For the citizen.
I think I think it's being a little overstated that this is like this huge Herculean effort to network and to run something like this. I just think it's possible. At the end of the day though, I think it's if the, we have feedback from the Economic Development Office, like we understand where they stand on it. I think it's more of like, I don't want to micromanage, but if I think this is kind of like more like a broad, I mean, we have goals, and I think something like the matchstick market could easily be associated with our goals for the downtown area. So I think it's kind of a question of just, does the board think that this is something to consider to pursue? Or do we want to just, say we had the discussion, our Economic Development Office doesn't think that it's a good idea, and then that's just the end of it.
Can I get more clarification? Have we talked about where this is going to be? Or,
Yeah.
That's the whole
And I
next
think-
layer of,
Yeah.
where,
I mean, what screams to me, and sorry.
No, I'm just saying like, you gotta move on, but.
Okay.
But I don't disagree with you because I think when it was brought up before, we floated the idea of the vacant lot next option.
That's what I'm talking
That
about.
it costs $9,000 to equip it with is there an actual space? And we'll kind of turn to Matt and Mary, who put a whole lot of effort into 2 Old Home Days that involve these types of vendors. I was not involved with that planning, just helping them set up, which was kind of a nightmare. So it's, well,
If we
you
had
know what
that-
I mean? Like, I need this, you need, here's this. I was told I'd get handicap parking. Here's this, what's going on? Like the coordination of it can be
All-
like
All those
one
things have
time a
been
year.
smoothed
Yeah,
out. We're
good.
good.
So you want to do that every week? Is that
No,
that's
no,
the
but
question? Like on a smaller scale, it's still that type of work.
So this is what I would suggest or request, right? Could we all, similar to the
Mhm.
vacancy aspect, could we kind of, you know, I don't know if Ed, if you have any appetite for kind of like,
I would.
just, and so those are the, to your point, where would it go? What's the frequency? Who says it has to be
Yes.
every Sunday? Could you do one on like, you know, maybe quarterly, or just start small, get some feedback, and then
But who's gonna do it?
that's what the subcommittee will figure.
Yes.
Yeah,
and-
but like, that's again, like citizen engagement, like, I
I
don't think.
you're talking to somebody who had to like beg an entire town to get a dozen volunteers for.
We can do it at the
Halloween
dog
walk,
park.
And I couldn't get them.
Because so many
For,
people want
for
to
the, for the
attend
most
it.
Yeah.
cherished
Yeah.
event of the year.
No, but-
So I'm just saying
Yeah.
that it's something that
Can I
it,
just-
it
I
does,
just-
it,
it's
like,
like,
it takes a lot of,
I just
it takes a lot
don't
of
think
hours and a lot of manpower.
Yeah,
and
like,
way
I
to-
just don't think the return, the
Streamline
amount
the
of time and effort that would be put into a few side hustle vendors, I just don't think it's worth it, but people can explore it if they
I'm-
want.
If I was a
I just
business, I
don't
would
think-
appreciate that.
I'm speaking for myself. Like, I'm happy to revisit this. And again, look at that front page of the memo and kind of look at the different approaches to this idea of temporary activation. This is my own personal insight relative to the load, the lifting load and the outcome. The kind of the festival-based pop-up is most intriguing to me. We can tell you this discussions we've had with Asheville, that kind of place-based storefront, leave alone where it is, what are the continuing costs, how do you cover overhead, how do you cover insurance, you know, what kind of administrative capacity do you have to be booking, to contacting, vetting and booking potential tenants. That's a lot of lifting. Like you said, Asheville's hiring a separate person to do just that. You take an example like the Matchstick Market, or even the sidewalk sales days with the Chamber of Commerce most recently sponsored. Those kinds of community-based ones are the most interesting to me. And if there are, since we're on television, if there's someone in the community who has that kind of special connection with fabricators, with farmers, with people who are entrepreneurial and want to put their product out into the world, talk to us. We will definitely work with you to see if it's something we can accommodate here. You know, whether it be at the depot again, or on the sidewalk, or Central Park, or if we can come to an arrangement with a space where either there's an accommodation by inspectional services or by the property owner. We'll definitely work with you.
I think there's a lot of assumptions in there though that, you know, that may be one aspect of a matchstick market, you know, the side hustle may be growing it, but there could also be there could be an opportunity for an existing business to basically kind of expand their network and get their product out there with the idea, you know, to kind of build their customer base. So I think, you know, to be able to discuss it within a committee, I don't think one option would be hiring someone. I don't think that anyone's saying that should be the option, but I think if Mr. DeVault's interested and you're willing to put in just a little bit of time to meet with Chamber of Commerce to kind of brainstorm, and then if at the end the answer is no, this isn't sustainable or whatever, then so be it. But I think kind of go into it with an open mind that, all right, what would we want it to look like? And if it's not sustainable, if it is, pursue it, you know.
And
much as we
I
can.
just, I, with no disrespect, but like, I just feel like every topic that we've talked about, you guys have just tried to talk us out of it. And you might be right. Maybe you're right in that, like, it's not a good idea, but I mean, we're talking about the commercial properties that aren't rentable, and your answer was like, well, the best tool is for the community to kind of rise up and speak against it. You know, Phil, you're talking about at one point you were trying to be proactive to get businesses here, and then you found the best thing to do was to just sit back and let the businesses come to us. I'm just
No, that's not what I said at all. That's not what I said at all.
So we'll check the tape, because that's what it sounded like what you said. I'm just saying, like, and like you got at the end of the day, like maybe you guys are right, but I'm just being like honest with you guys. I like working with you guys. I think we do there's a ton of stuff that we agree on, and I think we work towards a lot of things, but it's just, I don't know, I've just been a little discouraging, but that's not.
But we're happy to have a discussion. Maybe we can actually
Yeah.
invite some of the staff that have worked on these in other communities to attain greater benefit from their experience.
Okay. Thank you for all of this. Do you guys mind circulating it via email so we have like it in our inbox, just these memos.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Because I was paper and whatnot, but thank you for.
Okay, sure. And I'll
coming in.
include a link to the,
The Cambridge.
Yeah, that would be great. Appreciate it.
Thank you, thank you.
Thanks. Okay, next up we have the town administrator report.
Okay, like Madam Chair, the first item I was going to just ask, I'm sorry, if there was no objection to that I could put together a letter of support for the Mass Central Rail Trail project. Chris Epstein is here, who's worked closely with Franny Hodge on the town portion, but they are also looking as a coalition to try to put together support of the successes to show the policymakers in the State House in Boston how the projects are working and how impactful they are. So Christine, I don't want to, Madam Chair, if she wanted a moment just to address the board, but just kind of give your little pitch on what you're looking for.
Chris Epstein, 353 Church Street, Clinton. I'm the president of the Greenway Trust, and I think Craig Della Penna has been working on this for 20, 30 years. It's a trail that goes from Northampton to Boston. There's, I don't know, 25 or so towns along the route, and he has asked for letters of support from all of these towns. He provided a couple of samples of letters, so I put together something that you can modify as you will and make it your own if you want to add, subtract. And then he's put together a coalition. We're the Mass Central Rail Trail coalition now of all these towns, and I think Craig and maybe a couple of other leaders in that group are going to go to Boston and lobby legislators and the governor just to raise awareness of this big project that will link. It's the east-west link, and lots of other trails will be connecting to it, like the new rail trail that was done up in Leominster will eventually come down and link with that. I think there's 17 different trails in the state that will link. So this is like the backbone. And Craig is very enthusiastic and wants to go into Boston with all the support. So he asked us.
So if everyone's okay with that, I can put something together for Chris to bring.
Also move, Mr. Chairman, that, Madam Chairman, that we go ahead and endorse this and send a letter on.
Second.
Okay, all's in favor?
Just discussion. If you're not on his email list, I suggest I can forward to the board, but he's got a terrific newsletter that talks about the whole rail trail effort throughout the whole state, including ours, gives tremendous updates. It's fantastic. So I wholeheartedly support.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry to make you wait.
No.
Free admission to this entertainment, you know?
What else are all the Dodgers?
All right. And the next issue, again, just if there isn't any objection, the Hometown Tavern liquor transfer that went through, after they had submitted it to the state, they had made some changes. So those changes technically need to be reviewed by the town. So the application is the exact same. The only difference is one of the people, one of the directors in the corporation, Mr. Daniel Weaver, is not going to be on the corporation. So they're removing that person. But the other three that were on there are all staying the same. The business plan and models all staying the same as well, too. So if the board is still okay with me resubmitting this without Mr. Weaver's name on
Is
it.
it? I think,
This is
I was gonna
Liberty?
ask too. Is this formerly
Liberty?
Tees?
Yes, yeah, it's the Hometown and Liberty Tavern space, right?
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Just a couple of personnel updates. Facilities have just hired 2 personnel. They're now at full staffing. There was 1 in the facilities department, a custodial position, and 1 on the grounds. So those 2 individuals should be starting in the month of March. Also, the police department has 2 openings that they have in their department. There was a recent retirement from one of the detectives, and there's been an ongoing opening since before we were looking to change out of civil service. So now that we've gone through that process, the chief is looking to move ahead on filling those 2 spots. So we'll give more update as we get further on that. And then the last issue is just a preliminary, just kind of putting out for the board so that you know, Joyce in our office has been working with our legislators, and there's some hope of trying to bring a legislative hearing roadshow to Central Mass, and they're considering Clinton as one of the spots. So they would actually have a formal committee hearing, public hearing, and they'll use Clinton Town Hall to allow, they do that, I know years ago when I worked at the State House, we do that occasionally in order to be able to allow people in the different regions to be able to go to committee hearings. They're always held in Boston. A lot of people can't get to Boston. So they do try to kind of move out every once in a while. And they were asking if Clinton would be interested. So I think it would be a great, if the board is okay with it, I think it would be a great opportunity to showcase the Clinton and the town hall and get some recognition for doing that. I think it would be awesome. So, so as we get more information, we can bring it forward as we know more, but just didn't want to get too far in the planning to make sure the board was okay with it. So,
Oh, I'll move, Mr. Chairman, Madam Chairman, excuse me, that we go forward with the plans to eventually have committee meetings in the town hall.
yeah, great.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Yeah, just remind them that Clinton is central to everyone but close to no one, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But I think one of them might be the Ways and Means Committee, so it'll be good. So we can,
Oh, nice.
we can maybe push for some more money.
Excellent.
Actually, can't take credit for that one. It's someone from that rented St. John's Gym for volleyball.
Yeah.
Says,
All right, we're voting on, having the legislature roadshow.
Committee hearings. Committee hearings.
Yeah, committee hearings. It'll be-
Committee hearings.
Yep.
Thanks. We're voting on that.
Present.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5-0.
Thank you.
thank you.
They're doing a roadshow, so we're trying to work.
Not the antique roadshow.
No. Affiliate. It's just endorsing the moving forward, planning it possibly. Okay.
Okay, so next we'll just kind of go into ARPA report, just
Thank you.
as the board, I think it's a good idea to keep on top of this. Just wanted to go over a couple of changes from last month that have been completed and some that are new status on some as well. So the dispatch software has been completed. Fire radios are done, all done and invoiced. The chief is picking up the radios tomorrow, fire chief. The town hall floors have been scheduled to be done, the auditorium floor to be done next month. The school chillers have been ordered. They have a big lead time to build them, but they have been ordered. And the garage doors for the fire station have been ordered as well too. So at least we got a couple of projects that are now complete, several others that are in the ordering stage. Others that are working on back office, back channel steps to hopefully to get work done this spring, as I mentioned last month as well too. We have invoiced about half of the IT project and about 3/4 of the skate park project, but those are ongoing as well too. So,
Madam Chairman, I just have one question. On the wheat project, is that still a go? I mean, because I I haven't seen anything or heard anything.
Yeah, it's still, they're still working on it, and I don't know if Mr. Duffy wanted to give any, or able to give any update on it. I know, Phil works closely with them and the Worcester Business Development Corporation, trying to see if any way we can assist, so.
I think it's safe to say they're still working on it. They're still seeking secure final law.
But it's still, as far as you know, it's still a go?
I think it's definitely still going forward, and they've gotten their design and they're moving forward. I don't think they've gotten every final funding piece together yet of the puzzle, so.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks. All right, we have old and new business.
Yeah, then Mr. Duffy is here for the two CDBG awards, if there's any questions or description of the projects for those. So, but first is
You wanna come up?
the Ash Street project awarding resident engineer services.
Yes, the Ash Street project is a CDBG grant from 22. It will repave
Ash Street, install new drainage and curbing, no new lighting, no new sidewalks. It's really not a way that can support those. Total project cost is $357,000. We're looking to get into construction early summer.
Maybe done before school.
We have to go through the contracting. Right now, we're projecting best case scenario, construction would begin in end of May, but we probably will work with the schools and Little League to see how, we have to follow contracting, but we have to coordinate with other entities moving forward. And then the second project.
Also,
Yeah,
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve the CDBG recommendation of award of contract for resident engineering services for the Ash Street project to GCG Associates in the amount of $27,680.
Second.
Yeah, we've already paid for the design. This is just for project oversight.
okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, next up, we have downtown sidewalk improvement project.
Sure. This is another CDBG grant from 23. This was a project to basically connect the ends of projects that we've already completed. New sidewalks running on Union Street from the dry cleaner to run up around the corner in front of the old post office onto Walnut Street and reconnect in front of Corcoran House with the end of the downtown project on High Street, and Church Street, excuse me. And then to run a sidewalk on one side of Prospect Street between High Street and Walnut Street. New curbing, new lighting, handicap accessible crossings, and new decorative street lighting. This is for design and construction oversight services. Our timeline is to have the project out to bid end of June, construction through July and August, and likely completion of the project around November. That's based on, the project will go into dormancy for a long time. We wait for the light fixtures to be delivered. If our experience with the High Street project is similar, those had a very long delivery time.
Can we look at tool joints versus using the saw cut joints?
Yep.
So I see the tool joint is up here on Chestnut Street. It appeared to be.
Oh, the ones across the street.
Yeah, those were tool joints. So if to stick with that instead of using saw cuts, which we haven't had very much luck with.
What was the second part too? Sorry, I'm
Yeah.
fine with that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Union up around Walnut, and what was the
Prospect between High and Walnut.
thanks?
It's gonna be a problem for some people that park on that.
Big pardon?
Where?
That's gonna be a problem for some of the people that park on the side of the road there.
Yeah, well,
On Prospect Street. Well, we're doing it on only one side, and there's really only one person who parks.
Hey,
There's really only one.
Fine by me.
Okay, so the other side of the street that doesn't.
The grades are such,
Oh,
grades,
okay.
trees, existing driveway aprons, it would have been a topographical nightmare, topological nightmare. So we're just putting the sidewalks on one side.
Is that the existing side?
It's
So are
the
they
south side. So there, it's the south side. The north side has the greenhouse on the corner. And then, the house Cindy Cannon grew up in. It's, what's on that side of the street?
The same
Wait,
Great Street?
are we talking about like closest to Mr. Z's or closest to
Yeah.
Closest to the other side, not the Mr. Z side, it's the other side.
the other side?
Okay.
He's on the Mr. Z side. If you drive down the street, you'll see like the Cannon's front yard, it does this. There's like it's right before the Cannon's property, it goes like straight up.
So that
It's where
sidewalk
18
will come up, connect to Walnut, and you could walk to the library.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And connect to the parking areas, parking spaces that have been created on those streets as well. So it's basically to connect that pedestrian network connect.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the CDBG recommendation of award of contract for design and resident engineering services, downtown sidewalk improvements, project to GCG Associates in the amount of $29,930.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0.
Okay.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have the, the Haywood Reservoir Footbridge Eagle Project. Brian Orsini from Boy Scout Troop 1 in Sterling would like permission for an Eagle Scout project to construct a footbridge for access over a stream along a hiking trail at the Wiki Piki property.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the request for Haywood Reservoir Footbridge Eagle Project. Completed by Brian Orsini from Boy Scout Troop 1 in Sterling.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Yeah. Does this fall under Conservation Commission?
I did ask them, that's a good question. 'Cause
Sorry.
I did ask them to check with the Sterling Conservation just to make sure that they get this sign off. So it's Clinton property, but it's in Sterling. So, so it would fall under their rules. So the
'Cause
chair of
Wiki
the
Peak,
Open Space Committee had recommended this project to the troop. So I asked that gentleman, Mr. Plastow, if he would work with them and just at least approach town hall and make sure there aren't any conservation issues before they go ahead with it. So
Thank
he
you.
hasn't gotten back to me on that, but that would be one of the conditions. So thank you.
Terrific.
Contingent upon sign off from all
Sterling.
necessary parties.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any discussion? No. All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0. We have, the Clinton Athletic Booster Club is requesting a donation from the Civic Fund in the amount of $750 to be used for a Clinton High School versus Neshoba High School, baseball game to be held at Polar Park in Worcester. No.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
And I don't want to put Matt on the spot here. I see that 750 is not my problem. Polar Park charges us more than 750. Do they collect the gate or do we get the gate back? Do we have to pay to go to this game?
So that hasn't been based upon my arm's length reach of that circle. The discussion has centered around not charging tickets
Okay.
for it.
Great.
So there's a cost to playing this game, and then there are different tiers, right? Like if you're using the stadium announcements and so on and so forth. So Clinton and Neshoba both have to raise their half for that. But I
to keep it free.
So it doesn't mean to keep it free, but that's they don't want to. The last I heard, they do not want to charge for tickets. So I'm not involved in those
I
conversations.
understand that. I don't want to
so-
put you on the spot.
No.
I was just wondering how much they were gouging us for this because.
No, so the idea would be that would be absorbed into
Gotcha.
the cost.
Okay.
The only question I had, do we have an assurance that Neshoba is going to do this as well?
Wow.
It's not
Yeah,
gonna be just Clinton.
So they sign, yeah, there is a contract that has to be signed between both schools and Polar Park, and they
Okay.
both have accepted.
This is just our donation to the greater
Yeah, so
cost.
the cost is approximately $7,500 per. That might be high, but it's in that neighborhood to play. To play there, it's several thousand.
Should get a 3-game series for that. I will move. Do we have this in the Civic? We can cover this. I'll move that we donate $750 out of the Civic Fund to the Clinton Gales Athletic Booster Club to cover portion of cost for the Clinton High baseball game versus Neshoba on Monday, May 12th at Polar Park in Worcester.
I'll second.
And I would just say that if you have any questions,
Sure.
direct them to the Clinton High School Athletic Director, Jennifer Govin.
It was more at Polar Park, and I have no problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's, but yeah,
it's a racket.
I mean, I think it's a great idea.
That's
Kids-
fantastic.
It's a wonderful experience for the kids.
Yeah.
I think the tentative day is May 15th.
Oh, really?
It says 12 on here. Is that?
You
you say
could be
it wrong?
right. I don't know. I don't see a date on it. when I
Oh,
looked
here.
at it.
I got a letter here. Oh, sorry.
Monday.
Oh, there
May
you go.
12th at
So
6. All
That
right.
just shows
We'll
you.
give it a plug
Pencil it in.
closer to the date, right?
Pencil it in.
12th, May 12th,
May 12th.
May 12th.
Okay, any more questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next, we have the Clinton Public Schools Scholarship and Enrichment Foundation is requesting a donation to their annual fund drive to raise money for student scholarships.
What do we normally give, Michael?
Yeah.
This request has come before.
Right, you usually annually give.
It was a 500 each
Yeah.
last
I
time.
think it was last year may have been 500. I think in the past may have been 250, but I think 500 was last year.
Well, I'll move, Madam Chairman, if we have the money, that we do the same as we did last year.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we'll match that amount from the last year. Okay, town administrator search firm award of contract. So we had 2 firms submit proposals to conduct the recruitment for the new town administrator in Clinton. I guess for everyone at home, both proposals were circulated to the board as well as a ratings rubric for us to review and provide ratings in order to best discern who would be the consultant that we would go with. So unless you have anything to add, Michael, I can. The one with the highest number was Community Paradigm with a total of 62. And MGT Impact Solutions had 41 in the rubric. So those, but next up is Finance Committee.
Yeah, so I think if the board chooses to make an award a contract tonight, then the next item on the agenda would be requesting funding from Finance Committee.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the town administrator search firm award of contract to Community Paradigm for the recruitment of a new town administrator.
Second.
Any discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Oppose. Okay. 4-1. Finance Committee Reserve Fund Transfer Request for Town Administrator's Search Fund. Do that.
Right. So
Okay.
now the next step would be based on the procurement process. The board was to review these proposals based on qualifications and of the firms.
Yeah.
So after the award is made, then we would open the price proposal. So
Okay.
so here, right in the folder, I have the price proposal submitted by Community Paradigm Associates. So I guess we'll be in real time, be opening to see,
that's
see how
great.
much it is. So I don't even know how much it is. So, and that would be the amount then that you would request of the Finance Committee. So the price proposals set forth with for the Town of Clinton Town Administrator search would be a total fixed fee contract price of $14,000 submitted by Community Paradigm Associates Bernie Lynch. So it'd be 14,000. So then if the board wanted to move forward with that price, then you would then make a motion to request that from Finance Committee, and then we can be in touch with them for their next meetings.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to move forward with the funding request of $14,000 from the Finance Committee Reserve Fund for the contract to hire a recruitment firm, Community Paradigm, for a new town administrator.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 4-1. Okay, committee reports, how many?
Madam Chair,
Mhm.
just Conservation Commission, it's my understanding that we have, with our partners in Sterling, they've made interviewed, offered, and received an acceptance from a shared agent. Lots of moving parts still. I don't know if you've been in touch with their side as far as what we have to do.
Not yet. The town administrator in Sterling had stopped by to see me the end of last week, just to say they were going through the reference checks and things all seemed to be okay. And then he is on vacation this week.
Okay.
So he said he would follow up with me next week when he's back. So
Great. I just want to thank Kim Roth for helping out with interviews and for the support we've gotten from this board, our colleagues in Sterling, and the Finance Committee. And I've talked to the chair about getting on a Finance Committee agenda just to stitch this up. But I know my colleagues on the Conservation Commission are thrilled with this, and I think it's going to, as we've talked about before, bring some great value to the town as far as helping out with what we need to do on that end. So thank you.
I just want to second on that. I want to thank Selectman Kerrigan for pushing this through, because I think this is a very big step for having somebody, at least in some capacity, to be able to answer questions on a day-to-day basis is something that was sorely needed. And I just want to congratulate Selectman Kerrigan. This is a great accomplishment.
Thank you.
Here.
and at least with this year getting started, in order to recruit someone, it's going to be, I think, as Mr. Kerrigan indicated, to have to discuss during budget, but at least with the funding that was appropriated this year, the delta won't be as big for next year. It would be just the difference of what would be needed. So,
Okay.
so at least it's built in part of the budget already.
Great.
So.
Great. Okay, thank you. Anything else? No, we don't have any community announcement, so, okay, so we'll be moving from open session to a closed executive session to discuss, executive session, Article 3, Step 3 grievance hearing continued, IAFF Local 3189. The other one? Are we, okay.
Yeah, and then the other
Sorry.
be postponed. Yeah, so just be the grievance hearing update
Mhm.
for hopefully a settlement, and then the next one will be postponed to a later date.
Okay, and then the second executive session that we were planning, the fire union contract renewal negotiation update, will be postponed till the next meeting. We will not be returning to open session after we complete the executive sessions.
Madam Chairman.
Yes.
I'm going to excuse myself on the grievance hearing because I wasn't here for that hearing, so.
Okay,
Do I get to do
I
that too?
believe you do.
yeah,
You owe her.
okay.
You're
Thanks
still
for saying that to Mary.
You're still required to stay in the town hall premises just in case.
Nice to meet you.
All right, so roll call to enter into executive session.
I guess Sean Carey and I.
Julie Bruce, aye.
Matt Colbus, aye.
Have a nice night.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Mary Rose.
Uh,